Hey there, you, me, and DC fans, and welcome if you are new. I am the stepson of Krypton,
I am Mantis.
and today we are discussing Superman versus the Fantastic Four, the box office numbers. Mantis, yes, it is fight night,
Kapow!
even though it's mid-afternoon while we're recording this. Does not matter.
Yeah.
Are you ready to get into the discussion?
Absolutely.
All right, then let's go. All right, guys. So we've gotten through the first full weekend of the Fantastic Four, the first steps being out in theaters. And obviously, the big question was going Marvel versus DC. Who was going to do better on their opening weekend? And to be honest, it was real neck and neck. I mean, we're down to just a couple of $1 million. I say that like I wouldn't be excited to have a couple of $1 million, but in the grand scheme of movies, we were super, super close. No pun intended. Mantis, thoughts on how they stacked up against one another?
Yeah. Kind of surprising that they were as close as they were in gross total worldwide for their opening weekends. I mean, Superman pulled out just a little bit in front there. I think the craziest thing there, and I'm sure you can discuss this, is because we touched on it when Superman's first box office numbers came out, and then the trend continued with the international performance. And yes, sexually.
Performance?
Yes, your performance. You know, the
Performance like sexual?
Was very bad.
I was about to say. Yeah, it did not perform very well.
But Fantastic Four is kind of like the opposite. Like Superman had a better domestic performance, yeah, sexually, and Fantastic Four didn't really have great, or not didn't really have a great, just didn't have as much domestic support as it did international.
Yeah, it wasn't too far off. I mean, it was in the 10 million-ish range because Superman did 125 million. I think what did they do? Like 117, 118, maybe rounding up million.
Yep.
So it wasn't too far off, but the international is what really kind of brought and kind of closed that gap.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, the international on it versus where Superman was, it's gained a lot of traction. So it's, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we all kind of can speculate the reason why the Superman movie is not doing very well internationally. That's what's hurting it, right? Because the interesting thing is the Superman movie has already beat. Now, remember in the previous video we did when we did the second weekend numbers, Superman now has already beat Man of Steel in domestic lifetime gross. It's not even been out the full month yet. It's the 31st on the time of recording this. It came out, and the earliest you could have seen it was on the 8th if you got your pre-tickets. And it's already beat Man of Steel domestic lifetime gross. Where Man of Steel has got the leg up on it is, in its total lifetime's done 160 million more than the new Superman has. And to be honest, I don't know how much longer it's going to stay in theaters. I don't know that it's going to get there since it's struggling so much internationally. So
yeah, I would agree with that. We were talking kind of outside video maybe a couple days ago on this, and yeah, there's been speculation of release dates on streaming services for Superman. There's a Reddit thread. A couple of people reposted it on Twitter that I saw that it was going to release the 15th of August, and everyone's just jumping on that and like, it's so bad they're pulling it so within a month of being in theaters and blah 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 blah. Us doing as due diligent as we are and don't want to spread any misinformation, did research on this topic. And what we could find is, that August 15th release date, I couldn't find that anywhere on Amazon, on the internet, anywhere, aside from it being a deleted thread in Reddit, as well as mentioned that would be a Friday, which is not concurrent with any other digital release ever. So it's probably Photoshop, something like that. And then what we did find, what did you say was like the August, either
it was like September 6th. It was like the weekend of the 16th or the next following weekend would have been.
Yeah. So, I mean, roughly 2 months in theaters, we can say, which is still, let's just say that's true, which is still less than what Man of Steel would get. But I kind of agree with you with its performance. being yes, sexually being so piss poor, quite frankly, in international markets. I mean, we even had a hard time finding. We couldn't even find like China
Go back to China, bitch.
numbers for Superman, international, like any numbers for it. So I just so bad. It's just I can't see it. Like you said, being Man of Steel.
It's interesting because when we talk about, most of the numbers that we when we were talking about box office numbers, we get a lot of the information from Box Office Mojo. I think that's where a lot of people go to. They've been acquired by IMDb. We usually list IMDb when we're talking about, hey, if it's posted on IMDb, that's usually a sign that that is actually true as far as when actors and actresses are cast for roles. So it's usually a lot of people base numbers off of that, right? So when you look at any of the other Superman movie, even when you look at the Fantastic Four First Steps movie, they all show the China's numbers for their releases and what they've earned. There is no category for that on the new Superman movie. Now, I'm not saying that they're deliberately hiding Chinese numbers or that nobody in China went and saw it. However, there are certain markets overseas that if you're not doing well at all in those, your international is going to suffer. And China is one of those. And obviously we kind of know how they feel about us right now. So I don't know if they're going to, I'm not saying that, oh yeah, it's because everything going on with China is why Superman did. They may have just not liked the fucking movie. We don't know. We're not here to speculate on that. But the international is what is going to probably keep this movie from getting to Man of Steel status. As far as we had initially said we thought it would do in the 600 million-ish range, maybe closer to 700 million, similar. I can say this though, at least I can't, none of us can control what happens, but as far as for the international, can't control that. But domestically, it's already beat every other Superman movie. It already beat Man of Steel within 20 something days of being in theater versus 97. So and the Rotten Tomato scores have stayed high.
Yeah.
Both the tomato meter and the popcorn meter.
Yeah, we were speculating when Fantastic Four released, we could look at the numbers and see kind of was the whole superhero fatigue a thing or not. And I mean, it doesn't really answer the question in my eyes because the numbers are so similar at this point. I wouldn't say that superhero fatigue would be the actual reason for its poor performance. As we were discussing, though, it's like China isn't like America in the sense that because it is a domestic movie in America, they're more likely to keep Superman in theaters longer because of that. China also, they're pretty strict on, or not say strict, they're not going to keep betting on something that's not going to bring them money. So they swap out their films quite frequently. So if F1 F1 was doing great, Jurassic Park, the new Jurassic Park movie was doing great over there, they're going to leave those on more screens than they would bringing in Superman, and that is definitely going to have an effect because if it's not even showing, they can't watch it. So
now here's one thing I will say so far about the Fantastic Four First Steps movie. When we compare it to the other Fantastic Four movies that have released, now, for anybody curious that maybe hadn't paid attention to the older ones, we had the 2005 movie, the original Fantastic Four movie of the newer generation. I know there was like a 90s like little spoof thing that actually got released on internet here recently, but the 2005 one. And then obviously we had the 2007, The Rise of the Silver Surfer, which is kind of similar to what this movie is doing. And then obviously there was that god-awful 2015 kind of reboot that didn't go anywhere. Now we have this one. I will say it's a little interesting that, we got a Fantastic Four in 2005. We got a Superman movie in 2006. We got now a little bit of a gap there when we got the, Man of Steel versus when we got the remake Fantastic Four, and now they're within a couple of weeks of each other. We're staying pretty close to each other. The two of them were about a year and a half apart, but the Fantastic Four First Steps has done better than already. It's already beat out lifetime gross. Has already beat out all the other Fantastic Four movies. We were joking around about it before we were looking at the numbers. If you take the Rise of the Silver Surfer and the 2015 Fantastic Four lifetime gross, this movie has already in the week beat out both of those put together in that.
Wild.
So that is crazy. I think it kind of shows that, one, people like it connected to the bigger universe, right? The whole of the MCU. Versus the 2015 one was kind of out there standalone-ish, even though it was during the time of the MCU. Since there was no connection, people just didn't feel attached to it. And then two, and we were discussing before, like, if you watched it and you didn't really know who these characters were, you wouldn't even know what that movie was. That movie was such garbage. And the thing is, I love Kate Mara. She's fucking hot.
So hot. Want to touch the hiney.
But that movie was so terrible. Whereas this one, I think people were excited to see the real Galactus. I know there was a lot of controversy, and we did several videos on it about the female Silver Surfer. I think people kind of push that. Well, some people push that aside. We're in this phase of the world where people are just going to kind of hate on things and not want to, give it a chance. And you're free to. Not saying there's anything wrong with that as far as on movie wise entertainment, but I think enough people kind of said, "Hey, let's give it a shot. They're going to bring this into the MCU. I want to see, these are some big characters in the MCU, especially when you're bringing in like Franklin Richards and things like that." So I think that's kind of what had a hand in it being as successful as it's already been, because it's definitely crushed any other Fantastic Four movie.
Oh yeah, by a whole lot. And I mean, even comparing, you kind of sort of compared their from Superman to Fantastic Four, the Rotten Tomatoes critic scores are relatively the same. Same thing with the verified audience score, Metacritic score. Surprisingly, Superman got a little bit higher on that. Cinema score, they're both A minuses. And again, these are kind of two reboots as well. One's rebooting an entire universe. One is just rebooting the Fantastic Four franchise. But I think it probably puts to bed of the superhero fatigue, as I mentioned previously. It's like people are more getting to not like things because of bad storytelling and terrible production. And I think in Superman's case, marketing.
They did a shit job on marketing for Superman.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And I think, something that Fantastic Four had a leg up on Superman internationally is historically the MCU has performed very well internationally, and the international audience have been very receptive to the MCU movies. So that, those differences that we see in those international numbers versus domestic against the two movies kind of show that as well. So but I mean, for the fact that, the critics, the audiences, everything has been kind of relatively even for both films, it's reasonable to say that there are other factors here. It's why, international performance for Superman has been poor compared to Fantastic Four. And it could be as nuanced as those things like marketing or some stupid political views, stuff like that can make a factor in it in that case, I think. So.
Well, and I know some people wanted to try to attribute, what was happening in the Superman movie towards comparing the conflicts that, James Gunn was injecting his views and these two conflicts. And when in the video, we had already touched on the fact that no, like those are two fictional countries in the DC universe on Earth that are always at war with one another. It's what happens in those. Now, I mean, you can probably tie a thread to anything and say, "Oh, yep, there's somebody who's trying to do this." If you're only watching it to look for the shit. But I think the reason why they're both doing as far as overall well, again, most popular superhero or most popular Superman movie as far as box office numbers in the first, less than a month, and then Fantastic Four has already crushed it. Because I feel like when you get back to the comic books, right, the source material of this stuff, this is what people are wanting to see. Versus, the MCU, even the DCEU, they weren't perfect. They start veering away and kind of like trying to, you want to change what really worked for decades now. And then your comic book fans, your people who love the original source material, they're not having it, right? Now we're going back. We're seeing that rise again because, Marvel kind of struggled a little bit. Thunderbolts. People like seeing the Sentry, and now you have this one. And it's also why Captain America didn't do so well, right? You want to try to change and reinvent the wheel, and then like, no, just leave it fucking round. And it shows that there isn't fatigue. It's people want you to stick to the source material, right? Make a comic book movie. And like we had talked about with Superman, the Superman movie feels more comic booky. Obviously I still love the Christopher Reeve, the original 1978 Superman movie. It's my favorite, but it was bringing Superman into the real world, whereas the Superman 2025 is bringing us into this comic book fantasy world of where all of these things, kaijus exist, and it's, they're like, oh, it's another day in Metropolis, we got to evacuate because there's a 300-foot tall kaiju just running around destroying shit. And with Fantastic Four, we're seeing the comic book version. We're seeing all the kind of 60s but retro futuristic Galactus coming in. That's all comic booky, right? Both of them are probably the most comic booky we've ever seen the characters on the big screen, and people like it.
Yeah, it's still responding well. Again, I think they've got different heights to meet as far as their. I mean, well, Fantastic Four really doesn't. It's smoked, like you said, the rest of its competition of previous Fantastic Fours. Superman's kind of done that to an extent. It's not going to catch Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice at all. I mean, even Man of Steel didn't beat out that. I think that was a combination of a sequel with Superman in it, but also you got Batman in there too. Really helped it out, especially internationally on that front. So, we're not going to get that. Batman's not in Superman 2025. He does have some extras in there, but nothing with like Batman. So, introducing new characters, new worlds. They're both kind of rebooting, rebuilding. I just think Superman had way more heavy lifting to do than Fantastic Four did in that sense, and probably also contributed to it. Well,
and that's a great point because, Superman was up against Man of Steel and Batman v Superman and the Snyder Justice League that did very, very well, right? So, and people didn't want to see it canceled. And don't get me wrong, guys. I mean, we've said it before. I didn't want to see it canceled. I would have loved if we were already right now, if we just went and saw a fucking movie with Henry Cavill as Superman fighting Darkseid. That's where I wanted to be right now. Unfortunately, that's just not where we are. So we take what we can get. And fortunately, what we got is I love the movie. I thought it was a very comic booky, different telling. But that's what it was up against. And it was up against a lot of the hate. Whereas Fantastic Four, you had no competition to the other Fantastic Four movies. I mean, just the overall, even if you took Galactus out of there, as long as you didn't make him a fucking cloud again, you were going to be more successful than the Fantastic Four movies. Plus, too, and we've talked about this many times before, it's why we can't get a good Superman game. It's why it's difficult to make a movie. When you have a character that's that powerful, it's so difficult to have them on screen and make a great movie because Superman usually doesn't have too much of a character arc. He's just always good. He's got to overcome challenges. Well, how do you do that? Magic or kryptonite, right? Like, or another Kryptonian. It's the same. They're so limited on what you're going to do to make him have a struggle that it's hard to make a great movie that's just going to make everybody happy. Either you make the masses happy and you piss off your comic book fans, or you flip it, right?
Yeah.
The comic book fans, you know what I mean? Just this,
Yeah, I guess, my final two, I guess, little things here I found out. Yesterday I saw this too, that WB is laying off 10% of its motion picture group.
I saw that, yeah.
Now, some people are saying, of course, they're like, oh, it's because Superman did so terrible. I think this was kind of in the works since the beginning of the year, at least from what I can find on it. Well, there's that, and then I also saw that, kind of, you jogged my memory on this, I saw this too, was the Warner Brothers game studio is hiring for a new video game that they're making, a live service game featuring one of the main characters in the new DCU. So that's good news and bad news. Good news is they're making another game. Bad news is it's going to be from the same studio that pretty much did the last failure live service game for Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League or whatever it was. It was garbage. I don't know why these AAA studios decide to go after these live service games because it's too high risk. I don't like it. They need to make a single player game and be done with it. But no, they want that returning revenue, right? They want live service. They want microtransactions. All this crap.
Microtransaction. Everybody gets a microtransaction.
I don't get it. It's too high risk. And your last game didn't do well. So laying off a bunch of people and you're making another poor decision on the video game front. People like these companies just can't stop shooting themselves in the foot when they have a win. You got a pretty good, I say, as much as you could have with Superman releasing, it's a pretty good win, okay? And you're going to turn that and you're going to shoot yourself in the foot with the video game side of it. It's stupid.
Superman, and since you bring that up, kind of the final thought here of Superman right now is made back its money or pretty close to its money as far as what it cost production wise. It's close right now, and then obviously it's got to make back more money to account for the marketing and things, which you wouldn't think is that much given how, it was a fucking month before the movie release before we actually got the full trailer. But I would say it'll probably get close to breaking even totally, marketing and everything included. That's not going to include the merch that the movie's going to generate, because obviously superhero movies always generate a lot in merch and everything else like that. You got back to school time. It's going to be the Superman backpacks and lunch boxes and all that. So it's going to make back. It'll probably be profitable for them. It's not going to be wildly profitable. But again, we didn't need this to be wildly profitable. We needed it to at least succeed, which I would say it's done. And there's hype. People are excited about it, to then continue on with your Supergirls and your Lantern show and build from there. It didn't have to be a box office success. Didn't have to gross over $1 billion. Now, there are going to be the people that's going to hold it to that standard, but nothing we can do about that now, right? If it could crank out the numbers internationally that fucking Batman v Superman did, it'd be close already.
Yeah, that would be considered a smash hit. I mean, if it did over $1 billion, you're talking that would be wild, considering that Endgame did over 1.2, and that's a culmination of years.
Endgame did 2.5 or 2.6 billion. Yeah,
I think it was like 1. Yeah,
anyway. No, both Endgame, Infinity War, and I want to say maybe not Age of Ultron, but I thought there was 3 of them that actually crossed the $2 billion mark. But definitely Endgame and Infinity War did. All right, guys. Well, if you have made it with us this far, please consider giving the video a like. Right there. Subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on any of all of the newest videos we've got. We're going to continue to track this and see where these movies go. And we probably won't bring out another one for the next weekend of it, but we'll do a final numbers video on Superman once it does leave theaters. And, we'll keep tracking it. Have your bell notifications clicked so you will get notified when we release that, as well as everything we are doing in the Absolute universe on the comic book side. And we want to thank all of our subscribers, both those of you that have been here since the beginning, and then all of the new subscribers that we have gotten here very recently. We definitely thank you guys for subscribing. Mantis, do you have anything else?
No, I'm good. Just you pretty much said it all. Keep an eye on our upcoming comic book videos releasing, all the latest issues of the Absolute Universe. I think they've actually picked up quite a bit. So
yes, Mantis is doing a fantastic job, and the Absolute Batmans are picking up. That's probably one of the ones I think that are getting the most, as far as the comic is just starting to really heat up, where the first few issues were a little slow. Be on the lookout for that, because we've got Penny in those comics.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, that is going to do it for us on this episode of You, Me, and DC. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Later.